Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us in this next installment of our Let's Talk About series. Today we're going to be talking about how we prepare for an airsoft game, what we bring with us to the field. And before we get to it though, we just want to thank you so much for your support and your good feedback and kind comments and questions that you've been asking us. If you're looking for a direct way to support our channel, we are selling merch. So, feel free to support us that way. And if there's some kinds of merch that you'd like to see, let us know and we'll see if we can hook you guys up. We really appreciate all the support. So today we're going to start off by talking about, the kinds of preparation that we do before we go for a game, what we bring with us. And, before we dive into it, I want to be very clear, we're not talking about preparing for a specific MILSIM event. We're not talking about, preparing for a 48-hour event, which, we've never done, to be honest. What we're talking about is the average airsofter going to the average airsoft weekend game where you might play, half a dozen games. The games might be half an hour, maybe 2 hours. There might be objective based. It could be, a little bit of CQB here and there, depending on the field you play. The average game. Think of your average game. That's what we're talking about. How do you prepare for that? And I think, when we were talking about getting this video together, we were talking about how preparation is huge because that can really make or break your day, right?
Definitely. If you show up and you forget something, if you forget batteries, well, that's game over unless somebody has a spare. And then you're trying to, go around and ask people if you got stuff or if you forget a speed load or if you forget whatever. It could ruin your day.
Yeah, for sure. I think for a lot of us, the preparation starts, the night before. Laying our kit out, making sure that we have everything that we're going to need, which, we'll go into a little bit, but also making sure that our stuff actually works, right?
Definitely.
So we're going to charge our batteries, we're going to load our mags, etc. But you're going to plug the battery into the gun and you're going to pull the trigger and see, does this still work? Because if it doesn't, you want to know it the night before or the day before rather than on the field, right?
Yeah, and even when you get to the field, try it again because how many times have you seen, you're standing around for 45 minutes or an hour while everybody gets ready.
Yeah.
Then you go down to the field and all of a sudden there's 2 or 3 guys who still aren't ready for some reason.
Yeah,
and it's
that's
usually
right.
because they weren't, prepared or they didn't do a check.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. So, we're also, when we talk about the gear that we're going to bring, there's some gear that's obvious. Everyone's going to bring their airsoft gun unless they forget it, right? But in general, we're talking about your airsoft gun, your mags, your BBs, your batteries, your iPro. You're going to bring that to the airsoft game. So the question is what else are we bringing, right? And what are we as well not bringing? And finally, how many airsoft guns is it reasonable to bring, right? That's a question we get asked all the time. How many guns do you show up with? Well, to be clear, I have one airsoft gun and a backup. I believe Chris has one airsoft gun, period. Yeah. For a lot of us, this is a hobby where, we have a lot of other things we need to balance. So we might not be guys who have 6 different guns that they can bring, right? And you shouldn't feel the need to be that guy either if you don't have the resources to do that.
Yeah, and for some people, that's why they play, because they want to play with, an M60, an AK, everything you can play on Call of Duty. Whereas for the most part, for us, I only want one rifle because I want to be really good with that rifle, and I want that to be my sole focus.
Yeah.
So, any money I have to put into it, I want to put into that.
Yeah, right. For sure. But that being said, so aside from that stuff that we're all going to bring, what are the other kinds of things that we bring? And, in the last 14 years of me playing Airsoft, I've seen a lot of really interesting stuff being brought to the field. Whether it's, live gas masks like this, or whether it's army rations like we have back here, ammo boxes, surplus ammo boxes. We see there's a lot of stuff that people bring, and, some of that stuff you're weighing yourself down in a lot of respects, right?
Yeah, and I was the same way when I first started playing. I had about 200 feet of rope coiled up on my shoulder. I had all kinds of stuff. Whatever I thought, didn't even think. It was just I thought more was better.
Yeah, that's right. So I think the first thing is, what are we taking to the game, right? So for us, if you've watched any of our videos, we are all about efficiency. We want to make sure that, everything that we have has a purpose, right? So, Chris, why don't you talk to us a little bit about some of the staples of the stuff that you pack sort of the night before to make sure you have?
Well, like we said, we're not going to talk about things that you need to bring to play.
Yeah.
But magazines, obviously, you need to bring.
Yeah.
But I always like to prep my mags the night before or the morning of. Mm-hmm. And I also like to, I've probably got 25 AR magazines right now.
Yeah.
Probably 20 of them are pretty good. 15 of them are really good. So then I'll load them all, but I'll make sure that they're marked in such a way that I know which ones are good.
Absolutely.
And then I'll fill my kit out with them. And then all of my spares that are still full, I'll just have in my pack ready to go. So if we play, a skirmish followed by another quick skirmish, I can just swap those out. And then I'm not spending all my time reloading.
Yep, for sure. Are there any tools in particular that you like to bring to the field?
Oh, definitely. I always got a multi-tool in my kit somewhere, just if in case I have to tighten something down or whatnot. A full toolbox if I could bring it. But like I said, I get away with a multi-tool, an Allen wrench usually, maybe some small technical screwdrivers, and tape.
Yeah.
Tape is a big one. Like, there's been a number of times when somebody's battery compartment has fallen off. You got to tape the battery to the rifle. Something's fallen off a rifle, tape it on. A bit of gear's fallen off, tape.
Yeah.
Right?
Or like even you got loose parts, like if your stock is wobbling too much, you put a little bit of tape on the buffer tube and you just tighten that up. So for sure, you need to think about the tools that you're going to you may need on the field. Mm-hmm. I'm sure all of you have experiences. We definitely have. Guy going around safe zone, be like, anybody got an Allen wrench? Anybody got a multi-tool? Every single game.
Yeah.
So, you firstly, you want to be able to help those people out, right? Yeah. But you also don't want to be that guy looking for somebody else's tools to fix a problem that you have. So really important to pack some tools that you might need to service your rifle. Now, you might not have a multi-tool, and that's okay, but you have a screwdriver you can bring, right? Yeah. Something to help yourself.
And you don't need to bring it on your kit. I like to have a multi-tool on my kit for, a variety of reasons, but it's just as useful, really, in your backpack or in your bag that you're bringing to the safe zone, because it's not life or death. You can just, if your gun doesn't work, you can just go to the safe zone and try and fix it, right?
Yeah, for sure. Another key thing to bring that, we need to think about is food and water, right? You see lots of guys going around with camelbacks and stuff. There's an appropriate amount of water that you need to bring. We've seen people come to the game with multiple gallons of water, and you probably don't need quite that much unless you're carrying water for your whole team, in which case, fill your boots. But most people, you carry 2 or 3 liters of water. That should be more than sufficient for a day's game.
Definitely. And I think one big thing, I used to try and carry 2 liters of water on me all the time. And I still will if we're doing a full day milsim where I'm not going to a safe zone or anything like that.
Yeah.
But if we're just playing skirmishes, even up to an hour, you don't really need water, to carry with you. Now,
That's right.
If you really feel like you need to, obviously, you can bring some, but you don't need to bring multiple liters.
Yeah.
I try and leave mine in the safe zone, reduce the weight, and then just drink between games.
For sure. And same thing goes for food. I've seen guys show up with a 24-hour ration, and they're like, all right, well, we got a break between the games, so I'm going to bust out the FRH, and we're going to have some, beef stroganoff or whatever, which, is cool. But again, this is taking up a lot of time. That package is, has a lot of weight. If you're doing a 24-hour milsim, again, this is not what we're talking about. It's a weekend game. You really don't need to be bringing all this kind of food, but you do need to bring food, right? So what do you typically bring in terms of food?
Well, I usually don't bring anything, to be honest, because I usually eat before, and then I run really hot. So if even a granola bar or something is not going to sit well with me.
Okay.
Now, there's lots of people like yourself, I know, that need to eat throughout the day,
or
they're not going to perform, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a little different, and that's just my preference. Now, I used to bring everything from bacon rolled up into little Ziploc bags and whatever, but I don't feel I need it anymore. Fair
enough. And I know, again, it comes down to knowing your sort of body, and I know you're an athlete, so you know sort of what you need to do to keep yourself at peak performance. I know for myself, like you said, I do need to eat, so I'm bringing a protein bar, or I'm bringing some sort of granola bar, or something that has 200 to 250 calories. That's going to give me enough energy that if I feel my energy sort of dipping down after a couple hours, I can eat that, and within half an hour I'm good to go again, and I'm my sugar levels are back up, and I'm ready to rock.
Yeah, and usually for even a little longer game, I might have Skittles.
Yeah. I remember,
I usually got some Skittles poked away.
Yeah. And that's something to think about. I mean, a granola bar, having some Skittles, a protein bar, that doesn't take up a whole lot of place in your kit. You can easily stuff that in your pocket, in a pouch, wherever. And it doesn't really interfere with your ability to, operate on the field. If you're carrying around a 300 gram or 400 gram bag of food, I mean, all that adds a lot of weight, and you don't really need it, right?
Definitely, yeah. And that's what we're talking about, is these quick games, where you don't need to bring 48 hours worth of material.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. So another piece of kit that we always make sure to have and is batteries, right? But like not just for your gun, you have lots of stuff that runs off batteries, right?
Definitely. So yes, for your gun, and depending on what time of the year you're playing or where you're playing, you want to keep the battery for your rifle, especially somewhere close to your body, because if you run 5 or 6 hours in the cold, that battery's not going to be at tip top shape when you go to use it. Batteries for your optics, batteries for your radios are a big one, because the minute everybody has the radio, somebody's battery is going to go down.
Yeah, that's right.
Somebody's battery. So I usually, even with an extended battery on my Baofeng that lasts literally weeks, I'll still have at least 1 or 2 spare batteries.
Yeah, for sure. And it's important to keep those sort of readily accessible too, right? Your battery might go during a game, like your radio might go during a game, your red dot might go during a game. And if it's pretty easy to swap them typically. So, you want to keep them somewhere close, like in a pocket or something like that. We did a quick tip video on that before, but we see it all the time. Oh, my optic is dead. I'm just using irons. Okay, but why don't you have a spare?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So batteries, for all your stuff, super important. What's a clutch piece of kit that you keep stashed away that you always pack?
I have for years, again, because I run really hot and I sweat a lot, I always keep paper towels tucked in the pockets of my BDU or whatever I'm wearing on both my sides, because I'll take 10, 12, 20 paper towels all individually ripped and folded, so then if I have a second, I can take them out, wipe my head, wipe my goggles, whatever.
Yeah.
Because it's helped me quite a lot in a pinch where it's a really humid day and your goggles fog up, quick wipe and you're good to go.
Awesome, yeah. Another piece for us is making sure that our gear is prepped sort of the night before. So when we show up to the field, we're not holding anybody up. We're just putting our gear on and we're ready to go. So Chris, why don't you talk to us a little bit about sort of what you do sort of the night before or the morning of to get game ready?
Yeah, like I said before, I'm going to make sure my batteries are charged. I'm going to fill my mags. I'm going to try every piece of kit that I can. So whether that's my radios, try my rifle, make sure my optics are all working. Then I'm also going to try on whatever I'm wearing the next day. So right from my boots to my helmet or cap, whatever, my chest rig, everything. Just to make sure that everything is working how it's supposed to. Because I'd hate to show up, and get halfway through the first game and realize, oh, there's something hanging off, or, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, for sure. And it's especially true, if you've picked up a new piece of kit, right? If you bought something new, you're going to think about bringing to a game. It might be a chest rig, it might be a plate carrier, it might be a belt, whatever. Chances are you need to adjust that. You can't just, you can just put it on for sure, but for it to be effective for you, you need to try it on, right?
Yeah, and you're not going to be able to know how it performs until you start playing, obviously, but you can get pretty close, with some practice at home or just playing with it, trying it out, to best of your ability wherever you are.
I know a big thing for me is taping stuff down like the night before, all these adjustment straps that we have on our slings or on our chest rigs. You don't want those flopping around. You want your kit to be as tight as possible. So taking the time the night before to make sure everything is, taped down, or if I have stuff already taped down, that tape is good to go. It doesn't need to be replaced, making sure my stuff is in good condition.
Yeah, you had a good weekend, you need to loosen it up.
Next, we have a viewer question from Dan W. Thanks so much for the question, Dan. So he asked us about our thoughts on drop leg holsters for our sidearms versus hip holster or carrying it on your plate carrier. When it comes to carrying a pistol on your plate carrier, that pistol could be primary mags instead of a sidearm, right? Mm-hmm. So we definitely recommend against running a pistol on your plate carrier, on your chest rig, or anything like that. There's a specific application for that in the real world, but 9 times out of 10, when you're talking about airsoft applications, you would be better served with more mags for your primary instead of, a sidearm. Definitely. So that piece aside, I think the real question is between sort of a drop leg and like a hip holster. I ran a drop leg for years. I know you did for a while too. Yep. And now we run exclusively sort of on our hip. So you want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah, for sure. The reason why you'd run a drop leg holster is to clear your gear, right? And if your drop leg holster is anywhere down your thigh except directly up on your hip, it's not going to be a good time, especially if you've got a fabric holster, because it's not going to retain the pistol, and you've also got a pretty good chance of losing a mag. And any weight on your legs, any movement, you're going to get that floppiness. It's just not a great time. So if you do want to run a drop leg, I recommend just on like a Safariland mid rod or something like that. It's only gonna take it off your belt line just a little bit, and then maybe running like a single thigh strap that's up as high as you can get it. But other than that, we pretty much run them on our belt, because the amount of times that we need to go to our secondary, that half a second that we lose by having it on our belt line compared to a little bit of a drop leg is not gonna make that difference.
Yeah.
And for us, having it out of the way and just tucked in to be as streamlined and as smooth as we can is a big benefit for us.
For sure. And I mean, you touched on it just now, but one of the big reasons that I ran a drop leg was because my plate carrier was so low, it was so poorly adjusted on me, and nobody knew any different, that I couldn't run on my belt because my plate carrier was actually touching my belt. There would be no way for me to clear the pistol from the holster. So that's why I ran a drop leg. But once I started running a more minimalistic plate carrier, a chest rig that was properly adjusted, then it became feasible for me to run it on my belt. And it's vastly superior in terms of control, like Chris was saying as well, like floppiness. So we would highly recommend running your pistol on your belt, or very, very close offset. I think like you have yours set up right on at the top of your hip.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the trend you see with both target shooters, military shooters. Everybody now is to keep it high and tight or on the belt.
Yeah,
right.
For sure. Thanks so much for the question, Dan. Guys, if you have questions that you'd like us to answer on video, make sure to leave them in the comments. We read every single comment, and we'd love to answer some questions of yours on camera. So we've talked about the kinds of things that we typically bring to a weekend airsoft match. We talked about the things that we think are essential, the things that help us be as effective as we can on the field. And we also talked about the importance of preparing your kit ahead of time, so that when you show up to the airsoft game, you're not a soup sandwich, right? You're good to go, and you're not holding anybody up, and you're setting yourself up to make sure that you're going to have the best day possible, because your kit is in good condition, everything is working the way that it's intended to, stuff that's not working was left at home, etc. But the thing is, all the stuff that you decide to bring, and I mean, if you take our advice or not, I mean, if you decide that you're going to bring your surplus ammo can, and you're going to bring your entrenching tool and your 50 feet of rope or whatever, the reality is you're going to have to carry that, right? You may not have to carry it during a game, but you definitely will need to carry it from your vehicle or, where you were dropped off all the way to the safe zone and so on. So one of the things we see very frequently is people are showing up and they're carrying gym bags and all this kind of stuff. The reality is, though, if you need to carry that during a game, you will not be able to, right? So how do you set up? So firstly, what do you carry, and sort of how do you set it up?
Well, I just carry a standard backpack from Walmart. Because I'm not hucking around 50 pounds of gear. I don't need anything fancy. So I just try and keep what's most important to me that day at the top. So most of the time that's going to be mags. If I'm going to eat a sandwich, I can fool around and keep that in a different compartment.
That's right, yeah.
But, my mags, my gas for my pistol, that kind of stuff is going to be at the forefront. Then everything else is going to get packed in a lower priority.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try and ensure that everything that I'm going to take, minus my rifle, can fit in that pack. So like you said, if we're playing a game that I want to take extra mags, throw it on, I'm good to go. Or if it stays in the safe zone all day, well, then it stays in the safe zone. It's fine.
And, it's easy to also go the other way. Like, I have a very large backpack that I carry. My backpack can actually fit my plate carrier, my belt, all of my mags, all of my BBs, my side, everything can fit in there. Like rifle. My first aid kit, my rifle, I can break it down, I can stuff it in there. And that's great in theory, but in terms of carrying that around for a game, it's not very tight. It makes it's basically sort of limiting me in some ways. So if it came to actually running it during a game, I probably wouldn't. I would have to run something smaller, right?
So ideally, you'd have two, right?
Yeah.
That's fine to show up for, your day where you're doing a dozen different skirmishes. But if you were to do a milsim, you'd probably want something a little bit more concise.
Yeah, you really need to think about sort of how you're going to carry all of this. And the reality is, there's a saying, ounces equals pounds and pounds equals pain.
Yeah.
You definitely do not want to be carrying around 50, 60 pounds of kit, 20, 30 kilos, just because it's cool. If it's cool, it's great. We have our teammate Johnny, he does, reenactment and World War II kits and stuff. And just the other day we were on a hike for getting ready for another video, and he was carrying 70 pounds of kit. That's a lot. And he was smoked by the end of the day.
Well, he only weighs 140 pounds.
Well,
so.
yeah, there's that too. But a lot of you airsoft guys out there, I mean, if you're going around and you're carrying a lot of this kit, like you're expending a lot of energy carrying all this gear that could be better spent for during a game, right?
Definitely. If you find yourself smoked after 3 or 4 skirmishes, well, you might have to look at your gear.
Yeah.
Right? As well as your cardio and whatnot. But that's a good place to start. It's the easiest place to start.
So guys, the bottom line for us here when it comes to, how you prepare for the game and sort of what to take, really focus on the things that you're going to need to get through your day, right?
Yeah.
We talked about like your tools and all this kind of stuff. Really consider, am I going to be using this today? Is it going to be helping me? I mean, we've said it in other videos too. Airsoft is a fashion show. Like, you're gonna have cool items that you're gonna want to bring.
Definitely.
And that's fine and dandy. But understand, you're gonna have to carry all of that, and you may not, be prepared for that. So you want to think about, is this really essential for you on game day?
Yeah, a quick little exercise to do is just think back to all the times where your gear or something that you've taken has failed you, or you wish you would have had something. And then try and plan it around there, and that's how you'll get better and better and better.
Yeah, and we really can't emphasize enough, take the time the night before to get your kit in order, right? Make sure everything is working. Make sure your batteries are charged. I've seen it done before, especially myself, running some bigger games. I have a checklist of all the things that I need to bring, and I check it off as I pack them to make sure that I have absolutely everything that I need. It's going to set you up to make sure you have the best day possible, right? Nothing sucks more than having to go home because your gun went down and you don't have a backup, or it's something you could have prevented and you didn't because you didn't take the time to go through your stuff the night before.
For sure.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. We read every single comment and we'd love to answer any questions you might have. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.